My name is Gavin Evans, and this is my review for the marvelous Mrs. Maisel Season 5, and this review will have spoilers, so there's your warning. But, this weekend is huge! The three big TV shows I watch are all ending on the exact same weekend. What are the odds? But Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, barely in succession. So expect to see reviews for all of those within the next few days. But this show is one I do like. I think it started off pretty strong. Season 2 is great, but since then it's gone downhill quite dramatically. But I was really hoping it would end on a strong note, and even though it's an improvement, I think it ends with a whimper, to be honest. Yeah, I don't think it's a great season. I think it's fine, it's decent, but it's nothing special. But let's get to the story, and it mainly focuses on Miriam as she becomes a writer for the Golden Ford TV show and how she's trying to catch her big break there. And yeah, that's really all there is to it. It's nothing new. It's stuff we've seen done plenty of times before within the show. And the supporting characters really have nothing to do, which I'm actually okay with. It allows for a more focused, more streamlined final season. And it did manage to be consistently entertaining. Now, I know there's flash forwards and other stuff going on as well, but I'll get to that a bit later. But the main storyline, I really enjoyed. I liked seeing Midge in this different environment. And the cast all does a very good job. Rachel Brosnahan, I think, continues to prove herself as an actress. She showcases a wide emotional range and she can hit the comedic beats, but also there's one episode where she has a breakdown and she just totally sells you on it. I believe she's in the running right now to be the next Lois Lane, and I would be totally for that, to be honest. I think she's a great actress. Joe, I think Michael Zegan does a very good job here. He doesn't have a lot to do, and I guess that's one of my biggest issues with his character. He has grown, he has redeemed himself, all for the show to just no idea what to do with him. May left him first thing, which just shows you how useless she was. And, they kind of tease the romance between him and Midge coming back, but then they don't really dedicate themselves to it. Instead, they kind of go for he ends up in jail and she visits him. But I don't know. I didn't really find the use of this character this season to be satisfying. Episode 8 begins with this flashback. And he says a line, "I just need you. That's all." And I thought it was a very sweet line, and you just see how supportive he is of her in the last episode, and I don't know. I like the character, I just wish the show liked him better, I guess. Susie, Alex Borstein continues to be great. Yeah, she's really great here. And I do like how Susie and Miriam's friendship is the main relationship of this season. Their friendship carries it, and I just really enjoy seeing these two characters together. Then you've got Rose, played very well by Maren Hinkle, who doesn't have a lot to do, but I found there to be very strong payoff in the last episode. And same with Abe. I loved how in the last episode we see just how much he's actually come to care for Miriam and her dream. Should it have taken this long? No. I feel like you could have had this at the end of season 3, but in a vacuum, it was a very satisfying moment, and I also liked Reed Scott as Golden Ford. I thought he did a good job. I was kind of disappointed about the lack of Lenny Bruce. We do get a nice final scene with him, and I don't know. I would have liked a bit more with him. And I do think this season delivers on the humor. There was one scene early on with the kids' table that cracked me up. Zelda's wedding was a very funny scene. And Amy Sherman, crap, what's her last name? But the showrunner of the show, she's so good at just writing quick, witty dialogue, and you see that on display in many different locations and situations in the show, and she finds a way to keep it fresh. There's one scene where Abe and Rose are arguing about the meaning of a play, where Abe thinks it's a profound exploration of mortality and religion, while Rose views it as just this guy who lost a dog. And it turns out she was right, and that cracked me up. And the last episode had a very funny joke about Rose leaving the phone off for multiple hours, and that cracked me up. And I do want to give Amy Sherman lots of credit here as a director, because she directs this show so incredibly well. She's always able to capture the vibe and the atmosphere of any room, and the look and the production design and the costumes are all phenomenal. There's one airport we see early on, and the design, just so much effort went into it. So, like, if this was just another season, I would actually be a lot more positive on it. But as a final season, it just felt lacking by the end. Like, really? Like, this is it? At 9 episodes, it felt too short. And I just felt like there wasn't enough closure. I do like the last episode and the whiplash of emotions, how you're on edge, hoping Miriam gets her big break, and watching everybody support her. It was very satisfying and really worked emotionally. But after her big break, it kind of just feels like the end of any other season. Like, how is this different from when Shy Baldwin gave her her big break? I don't know, it just feels like yet another season finale. And I know we see that she was a success, but still. And then we get to the use of the flash forwards, which I loved at first, because we see how Miriam's choices affect her kids. How they have serious issues all because of her terrible parenting. And I was just like, yes, I was hoping for them to explore that more, but then they just kind of stop. And it's like, so close to greatness, that's so far. And then same thing with everything in the future with her and Susie. Like, we get the best episode of maybe the entire show, called The Testy Roaster. I found to be very emotional. They highlighted how Susie and Midge got their big breaks and what happened between them. And it is the most emotional episode of the show. And then they never really follow up on it, which I just found to be a very odd choice. I kind of expected the rest of the show to be flash forwards from that point on. And I don't know, like, I loved the episode, but like, the next time we see future Midge again, it's the very last scene. So, like, I don't know, like, they captured the emotional weight of the fallout, but we don't see it, and it's immediately fixed, so it doesn't have any real weight to it. And then the flash forwards just get dropped entirely, and I was hoping they would lean into the lonely life that she chose and how it affected the kids and her, but they really don't. And that's a big issue I've had with this entire show. There's a line that Miriam says in her final stand-up bit, where she says she was once just a wife and a muzzle. Just a wife and a muzzle? See, that to me is two of the most important things someone can be. That is a job that, if done well, is more important than any other job, especially being a comic. Building real human connection and loving people is so meaningful, and the show, she even acknowledges she prefers to gain love from strangers for one night. And if the show portrayed that as a flawed way of thinking, fine, but the show just agrees with everything that she's doing, and I just can't. Like, I understand this show is, from day one, has always been a feminist show, but this is where my issues with it really start to be highlighted. How is this a happy ending? She chose this job, her kids have serious issues, she lives a lonely life, but hey, she makes strangers laugh every now and again. And there are moments where it really does get preachy. Her last stand-up bit could have been really funny, but it just got really preachy. And everything that the show is trying to say and do is once again so interweaving with the story and the characters that to go out of your way to explain the ideas of this show is just lazy writing. We already got it. In the last scene, it just has Midge and Susie talking, and it would have been better if they talked about regret in their life and the relationships that they've lost and their mistakes. And it could have had real weight behind it. And like, Joel's in prison, that's his happy ending. We don't know really anything about Abe and Rose, and I don't know, it just felt like Miriam got the happy ending, which even though it's not, they tried to make it seem like a happy ending as hard as possible, and then everyone else just kind of got a shit ending. Joe got screwed over in this last bit, and I was really hoping they'd hold her accountable, but they look up to her. Yes. But I also feel like I need to talk about the biggest issue of the flash forwards, and it's you got these characters in old person makeup, and yet they got the exact same voice. It was so distracting. Couldn't they at least talk like this or try something? Just it allowed it so I couldn't take these scenes seriously. They didn't act old, they didn't sound old, they looked old, but that's just not enough. Abe's story arc is, I feel like we're just going through the same thing time and time again. And Kate Abruzzi as Princess Margaret is terrible. So overall, as an individual season, it's charming and funny enough. The cast does a very good job, but as the last season of this show, I just found it to be very unsatisfying. There's moments where it reaches greatness, but then it pulls back almost every single time, and it just ends in a very unsatisfying manner. I do not think this happy ending is actually a happy ending, and I do not think that she deserves a happy ending. So I'm just on a completely different wavelengths. There's enough enjoyment to be had, but it's heavily flawed, so I'll give The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel Season 5 a 6 out of 10. I do want to say one great payoff to me was hearing Gordon call her The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. But yes, I will have a series review and a season's ranked review of this show soon enough. I might do the best episodes, I'm not sure. Maybe not. I don't know, we'll see. But what did you think of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel Season 5? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for more videos soon. And Gavin